Why do I do what I do? I wanted to share with you a little bit about what it is, firstly, that I do, for those of you out there who don't actually yet understand or know what is this guy even on about? What is the purpose of what he does? And so it's a bit of a ramble, but stick around if you're interested. If you're a bit of a voyeur, you want to get an insight into the weirdness, the inner workings of my mind. So, firstly, if you don't know, I'm a mindset coach for entrepreneurs. Now, what does that mean? What is a mindset coach? I think a lot of people have a false understanding of what that is, or just don't have any understanding of it. So when I talk about being a mindset coach for entrepreneurs, what I'm really talking about is how to help you change the way that you think and feel in order to change the way that you act. There is this connection between how we think influencing how we feel, and how we feel influencing how we act. And so if you can change the thoughts that you're running on repeat, both the conscious and the subconscious wiring that you have, then you change how you feel and you change how you act. And therefore you change the results that you get. And why I do this is because years ago, I did everything wrong, essentially. I figured out that if you're not careful with how you think, it can lead you to places that you're really unhappy with. For me, that was getting to a point where I broke up and ended my long-term relationship. I ended up losing about 95% of my net worth, and I got so depressed that I nearly took my own life. And before that point, up until that point, I didn't understand this connection between how I was thinking about myself, the world around me, the government, and all of these other factors. I was thinking about things in a certain way, and they led me to that situation or to those circumstances. And up until that point, I hadn't really accepted that I was in charge or I was responsible for my own life. And it was only through pushing people away, through things getting so bad that I could no longer hide the fact that I'd created my own hell. I'd created my own misery. And in that moment where I felt so alone and it wasn't even loneliness actually, it was this realization that my life is so miserable and I was the one to blame. And in that moment where I wanted to take my own life and I made the preparation for it, a voice spoke to me. There's a voice in my head, and it said, it doesn't have to be this way. It doesn't have to be this way. But in order for something to change, you have to change. We have to do things differently now. I finally recognized that I was responsible for my own misery. And if I was responsible for my own misery, then I could be responsible for my own happiness as well. And all that was required was for me to take responsibility for that, right? It was to accept this was in my control, because up until that point, I just ignored that. I blamed external circumstances. I blamed other people for where I was. And yet I got to the point where there was nobody else around me. There's nobody left to blame. And I was still miserable. In fact, my life had gotten so bad that I wanted to take it. I wanted to end it. So that's where I started getting really in depth with how the mind works, studying psychology, neuro-linguistic programming, understanding how our childhood influences how we think, how our thoughts, both the stories, these thoughts that we tell ourselves over and over about what we're capable of, who we are, right? What is our identity? Oh, I'm a lawyer, I'm a tax accountant, I'm not athletic. Whatever it is, there's always a story that we're telling ourselves. There's multiple stories. Those stories that we tell ourselves are influencing how we feel and how we act. And they're influencing how the reality that we're creating. And it's through that learning and that study and that desire to help others to avoid the pain that I had experienced that I got into the coaching that I'm doing now. Because not only had I created the misery in my own life, but I'd also witnessed how other people with a different way of thinking, same knowledge, right? Same sort of background, same sort of opportunities, but with a slightly different mental attitude, could achieve vastly different amounts of money, were vastly more happy, and far more fulfillment. And I realized that it's not about external circumstances. In life, it's not about what happens to us. It's what we tell ourselves. It's the meaning that we assign to what happens to us that matters, right? It's how we deal with what happens to us that makes all the difference. And so that's how I got into mindset coaching, and that's how I started my company, Foundamental. Because if you're somebody who wants freedom in life, freedom for me means, firstly, being able to be on a place like this. As you can see, it's a beautiful beach, right? I'm here in Da Nang, Vietnam. But freedom for me doesn't just mean location freedom, being able to go on holiday, or living as a digital nomad. It doesn't just mean financial freedom. It means freedom from your own demons. It means being able to control and influence how you think and feel intentionally, so that you create the life that you want. It's not just about the external circumstances, because if you think about it, all we're doing when we're trying to get wealthy or we buy a new car is we're trying to achieve a certain feeling, right? What does buying a brand new sports car give me? How does it make me feel, right? Oh, it makes me feel important. It makes me feel competent. It makes me feel all of these things, right? And when you understand that the things that you're trying to acquire in life, the things you're trying to get, really what you're trying to get is a feeling, and you can find new ways to give yourself those feelings in the short term, it energizes, it changes the way that you approach life, so that it's no longer about waiting to get to a certain point. You get to start enjoying life now. You get to start really living. And that's what it's about, because what's the point in starting a company only with the hope that in 10, 15 years time, when you sell that company, then you'll be happy? Well, we know this isn't the case, right? We know from countless people who have done just that. They've grinded, they've been miserable for years, they finally got to that point, they sell their company, they feel great for like 30 seconds, and then that's it, right? 30 seconds is all they get, and then they go back to feeling like, okay, what the fuck do I do now, right? What do I do with my life? So if you learn to take control of your mind, you learn to take control of your internal state, your psychology, your mental wiring, then you can start to not only create those amazing external circumstances for you and for yourself, you can start creating the amazing internal feelings at the same time. So you don't have to feel lost and lonely and unworthy of love and all of those things that so many of us struggle with. You can be the source of love and happiness and confidence and joy that you otherwise are straining and grinding to achieve at some point in the future. So that's why I got into what I'm doing. That's what Foundamental is all about. It's about helping you as an entrepreneur, as a founder, retrain your mind for not only external success, but also internal fulfillment, internal joy. Because you've only got one life. And what a waste if you spend it unhappy in the pursuit of something that only gives you joy and happiness for, I mean, if you're lucky, maybe 24 hours. So when you get the foundations right, you get the foundations of the self right, everything else builds on top of it and builds on top of it in a much more stable, much more robust way. And that is what Fundamental is all about. All right, if you're interested in jumping on a call with me, if you want to learn more about how it is that I could potentially help you, we can have a call. There's a link in the description for you to book that. No pressure, we'll jump on a call and get a bit of insight and feedback into what it is that you're currently working through, where you are at life, what is your goal, what are you working towards, and have a conversation about what are some of the things that you could do and that I could help you do that would benefit you. So if you're interested in that, click the link below. And otherwise, hit the subscribe button. And yeah, for more videos like this. And I will see you in the next one. It's getting a bit dark here, so I've got to switch the camera off. All right, peace.